The alarm started at 3 in the morning. Every space monitoring station on Earth lit up at the same time. Something big was coming. Dr. Sarah Mitchell ran into the control room, still wearing her pajamas. The screen showed a massive object moving through the solar system. It was bigger than anything humans had ever built. Much bigger. Is it a ship? She asked. Yes, her colleague Tom replied. And it's dying. The alien vessel was torn apart in places. Pieces of metal floated away from its hull. Strange lights flickered on and off across its surface. It was broadcasting signals in dozens of languages. Most of them humanity had never heard before. Please, the message said in broken English. We need help. We are refugees. We mean no harm. Within hours, every government on Earth knew about the ship. The United Nations held an emergency meeting. Presidents and prime ministers argued through video screens. Some wanted to help. Others wanted to shoot the ship down before it got closer. The alien ship stopped near Mars and waited. It didn't move closer to Earth. It just sat there, sending the same message over and over. Finally, Earth sent a response. Who are you? Why are you here? The answer came back slowly. A face appeared on the screens. It wasn't human. It had 4 eyes arranged in a square pattern and skin that looked like purple stone. But it looked tired. It looked scared. My name is Kethera, the alien said. I speak for the Veiled Collective. We are 50,000 people from many different worlds. We have nowhere else to go. Kethera told Earth a terrible story. In the galaxy, there was a powerful government called the Galactic Concord. Hundreds of worlds belonged to it. The Concord decided which species could live and which should die. 3 years ago, the Concord started something called the Great Purge. They said some species were not needed anymore. These species were too slow, too weak, or too different. The Concord sent armies to eliminate them. They came to our worlds, Kethera said. They gave us a choice. Help them kill others or die ourselves. The Veiled Collective was formed by those who refused. 23 different species gathered their people and ran. They took whatever ships they could find and escaped into deep space. The Concord chased them. The Concord destroyed many of their ships. Only this one large vessel remained. We heard about Earth, Kethera continued. We heard humans were different, that you once fought each other over small differences, but you learned to stop. We hoped you might understand us. The message ended. The alien ship waited for an answer. Earth exploded into debate. News channels ran stories 24 hours a day. Some people were afraid. They said the aliens might be dangerous. They said Earth didn't have enough food or space for 50,000 aliens. Others were angry at the Concord. They said any government that committed genocide was evil. They said Earth had a moral duty to help. A movement started online. It was called Shelter the Stars. Millions of people changed their profile pictures to show Earth surrounded by different colored stars. Protests happened in every major city. People held signs that said, "Remember the refugees," and "We are all immigrants to this universe." But there was a problem. 3 days after Kethera's message, another ship arrived. This one was sleek and powerful. It was a Concord vessel. A Concord ambassador appeared on Earth's communication channels. He looked almost human, except his skin was silver and his eyes had no pupils. "Greetings, Earth," the ambassador said. His voice was smooth and cold. "We are pleased to make contact with your species. However, we must discuss a serious matter. The criminals aboard that damaged vessel are wanted by the Concord. They refuse to follow galactic law. We ask that you surrender them to us for processing. What will you do with them?" President Amara Chan of Earth asked. "That is not your concern," the ambassador replied. "This is a matter of galactic justice. Earth is not part of the Concord. You have no authority here. Stay out of our business, and we will consider trade agreements with your world. Interfere, and there will be consequences. The threat was clear. Help the refugees and make an enemy of the most powerful force in the galaxy. Turn them away and gain a potential ally. President Chun asked for time to decide. The Concord gave Earth 1 week. That week was the longest in human history. The United Nations held vote after vote. Scientists studied the refugee ship and confirmed Kethra's story. The damage patterns matched Concord weapons. Intercepted communications proved the Concord was lying about why they wanted the refugees back. Meanwhile, human ships brought supplies to the alien vessel. Food, medicine, and repair materials floated across space. The collective was amazed. No one had helped them in 3 years. On the 6th day, President Chun spoke to the world. "I have read our history," she said. "I have read about times when people were turned away from safety, when refugees were sent back to certain death because others were too afraid or too selfish to help. Every time we did this, we regretted it. Every time, we promised never again." She paused and looked directly into the camera. Never again means never again. The Veil Collective is welcome on Earth. Starting tomorrow, we will begin bringing them down to processing centers. We will give them food, shelter, and safety. We will treat them as we would want to be treated if our world was destroyed. The Concord ambassador appeared on screens immediately. He was furious. "You make a terrible mistake, humans. The collective are criminals. You harbor enemies of the Concord. There will be a price for this. Then we will pay it," Chun replied. "Come to Earth if you want them. But you'll have to go through us first." The next morning, the first shuttles launched from the refugee ship. They descended through Earth's atmosphere, carrying aliens who had given up hope of ever finding a home. As they landed in Australia, China, Brazil, and Kenya, millions of humans waited to welcome them. Kethra stepped off the first shuttle in Nairobi. She had 4 arms and purple skin. She stood 7 feet tall. She looked nothing like any human. But when Dr. Sarah Mitchell stepped forward and held out her hand, Kethra knew what it meant. She took the human's hand and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. 6 months had passed since the collective arrived. Earth had changed in ways no one expected. Kethra stood in front of a broken water treatment plant in Cairo. With her 4 arms, she could work twice as fast as the human engineers beside her. But that wasn't the problem. The problem was that humans didn't follow plans the way her people did. No, she said, waving her upper arms in frustration. "The blueprint says we must connect the pipes in this exact order. Why are you doing it differently?" Miguel, the human engineer, wiped sweat from his forehead. "Because I've done this before, and this way works better. Trust me. Trust." Kethra's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. The plan was reviewed by experts. "We should follow it exactly." "Yeah, but the plan was made by people who've never been to Cairo. I know this soil. I know this water. We need to adapt." This happened every day. Kethra's species, the Sivan, had built their civilization on perfect order and careful planning. Humans just made things up as they went along. It was chaos. It was madness, but somehow it worked. The water plant came online 2 weeks early. Miguel's modifications made it 30% more efficient than the original design. Kethra didn't understand humans at all. Across the world in Toronto, another kind of confusion was happening. Xian walked through the halls of Central High School, trying not to scratch the floor. His body was made of living crystal. Every step made a soft clicking sound. "Hey, Xian!" A human girl named Sophie ran up to him. "Did you finish the math homework?" "Yes," Xian said. His voice sounded like wind chimes. "It was simple." "Simple? Are you kidding?" Problem 15 took me an hour. Xian didn't understand why math was hard for humans. Numbers were just patterns. His species, the Torsion, could see mathematical relationships the way humans saw colors. But humans were good at other things. They understood emotions in ways that confused him. Sophie, he asked carefully, why did Marcus stop talking to Jennifer? Yesterday, they were friends. Sophie laughed. Oh, that's because Jennifer told everyone about Marcus's crush on Ryan. He's embarrassed. But why would he stop being her friend because of embarrassment? The friendship still has value. It's complicated, Sophie said. Humans are weird about feelings. At lunch, Xian sat with a group of human students and 2 other alien refugees. They talked about everything from music to sports to the latest videos online. Xian didn't understand half of it, but he liked being included. He liked having friends. The cafeteria served special meals now. 1 section for humans. 1 for crystal-based beings like Xian who ate minerals. 3 other sections for different alien biologies. The lunch lady, Mrs. Patterson, learned to cook for 23 different species. She complained constantly, but she never got an order wrong. Not everything was peaceful. In Germany, protests erupted when a collective family moved into an apartment building. Some humans still feared the refugees. They said aliens were taking jobs and resources. They said Earth should take care of humans first. A few politicians agreed. They formed a group called Humanity First. They held rallies and demanded the collective be moved to camps away from human cities. But they were a small minority. Most humans had a different view. Dr. James Okafor worked at the Xenobiology Institute in Lagos. His job was to understand the collective's biology and help them survive on Earth. He had learned more in 6 months than human science had discovered in 100 years. Look at this, he told his team, showing them a sample from a Vren refugee. The Vren looked like walking plants. Their cells can photosynthesize, but they also need to eat. They're halfway between plants and animals. This could revolutionize how we think about biology. Working with the collective taught humans new ways to solve old problems. Alien farming techniques helped grow food in deserts. Crystal technology from Zion's people made better computer processors. The Civians' organizational skills helped coordinate disaster relief better than ever before. Humans gave the collective safety. The collective gave humans knowledge. It was a fair trade, but the peace couldn't last. On a cold morning in December, President Chen received a message from the Galactic Concord. The silver-skinned ambassador appeared on her screen, and he was not pleased. President Chen, he said coldly, the Concord has been patient. We gave you time to reconsider your foolish decision. That time is over. You have 30 days to surrender the collective criminals to us. If you refuse, we will impose economic sanctions on Earth. Your world will be banned from galactic trade. Your ships will not be permitted to leave your solar system. We don't have galactic trade, Chun replied. We barely know anyone else is out there. Yet, the ambassador said with a thin smile. But you could. The Concord controls access to the most advanced technology in the galaxy. Faster than light travel. Energy generation. Medical treatments that could cure every disease on your world. All of this could be yours. Or none of it. Your choice. And if we still refuse, the ambassador's smile disappeared. Then we will consider more direct action. The Concord has fleets that could turn your planet to dust. We prefer not to waste resources on primitive worlds, but we will if necessary. Think carefully, President Chun. 30 days. The transmission ended. Chun sat in silence for a long moment. Then she called an emergency session of the United Nations Security Council. Every nation's representative appeared on screen within an hour. The debate was fierce. Some nations wanted to negotiate. They argued that Earth couldn't fight the Concorde. It would be suicide. Better to try to reach a compromise. Others refused to even consider surrender. They said giving up the collective would be betraying everything Earth stood for. We need to hear from the collective themselves, the Chinese representative said. This is their fate we're deciding. Cathra was brought to the Security Council. She stood before the most powerful humans on Earth and told them the truth. The Concorde is lying, she said. They don't want to put us on trial. They want to harvest us. The council chamber went silent. What do you mean? President Chun asked quietly. Cathra's four hands trembled. The Great Purge is not about removing inferior species. It's about profit. The Concorde takes the species they eliminate and uses them. They extract neural patterns for artificial intelligence. They process biological matter for industrial materials. They mine genetic data for their own enhancement. Every being they purge becomes resources for the Concorde economy. She pulled up data files on the council screens. Intercepted Concorde communications. Shipping manifests. Financial records. All of it proved what she was saying. My sister, Cathra whispered, was on one of the ships they captured. I saw the processing reports. She was turned into components for computer systems. 20,000 of my people met the same fate. The Concorde isn't a government. It's a slaughterhouse. The room stayed silent for a long time. Finally, President Chun stood up. We need to vote. But before we do, I want to say something. My grandmother was a refugee. She fled war in her home country and came to a place that gave her safety. Because of that kindness, I exist. My children exist. Our family has given back to our new home in countless ways. Refugees are not a burden. They are an investment in the future. She looked around the room. The Concorde offers us technology and trade. But at what price? Our souls? Our humanity? I will not trade lives for convenience. Not now. Not ever. The vote took 3 hours. In the end, it was unanimous. Earth would not surrender the collective. Not in 30 days. Not ever. When Cathra heard the news, she cried. Sivan didn't cry often, but she couldn't stop the tears from falling. Humans had chosen to risk everything for people they barely knew. She went back to Cairo and told Miguel the news. So we're going to war? Miguel asked. Probably, Cathra said. I'm sorry. This is my fault. Miguel shook his head. No, this is the Concorde's fault. And hey, we've got 30 days. Let's get to work. Work? On what? Miguel grinned. You're about to learn the human way of doing things. We don't follow the plan. We make a better one. The Concorde warships arrived on day 23. They didn't hide. They wanted Earth to see them. 12 massive vessels appeared at the edge of the solar system. Each one was 3 times the size of Earth's largest space station. Their hulls were dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Weapon ports lined their sides like the eyes of spiders. They stopped just past Neptune and waited. The message was clear. Earth had 7 days left. In a military bunker beneath Geneva. Human and alien engineers worked round the clock. The walls were covered with screens showing ship designs, weapon schematics, and offensive plans. Coffee cups and food wrappers littered every surface. We can't fight them, Admiral Rodriguez said, rubbing his tired eyes. Our entire space fleet is 27 ships. Mining vessels, research stations, and cargo haulers with weapons bolted on. They have 12 dedicated warships. It's not even a contest. Then we don't fight them directly, Cathra said. She stood at the main table with her 4 arms crossed. We make it too expensive for them to attack. How? Cathra pulled up a map of the solar system. The asteroid belt. There are millions of rocks between Mars and Jupiter. We turn them into mines. We hide ships among them. We make every kilometer of space between them and Earth a nightmare. A Vren engineer named Suleth spoke up in his slow, rumbling voice. My people can grow organic sensors. Plant-based technology that looks like space debris. We can see them coming without them seeing us. And my people, said a small furry alien named Tick, are very good at computers. Very, very good. We can try to hack their systems. Admiral Rodriguez looked skeptical. You can hack Concorde military vessels? Tick's whiskers twitched in what might have been a smile. Probably not all of them. But maybe one or two? Make their weapons shoot the wrong direction? That would be fun. Over the next 7 days, Earth became a hive of activity. Human factories that once made cars and appliances started producing weapons. Space stations were retrofitted with shield generators designed by collective engineers. Every civilian ship that could fly was converted into a makeshift defender. Zien and his classmates volunteered to help. The Torsion's crystal bodies could survive in space without suits. They flew out to the asteroid belt and planted Suleth's organic sensors among the rocks. Hundreds of crystal beings turned the belt into a massive early warning system. Dr. Okafor coordinated the biological resources. Some collective species could produce chemicals that jammed sensors. Others could generate electromagnetic pulses. Every species had something to contribute. Kethra worked with Miguel and other human engineers to combine technologies in ways neither humans nor aliens had tried before. Human creativity met alien precision. The results were strange but effective. But everyone knew it probably wouldn't be enough. On day 29, President Chun made a decision. Earth sent a message into deep space. Not to the Concorde. To everyone else. People of the galaxy, Chun said in the broadcast. We are Earth. We are a young species. We have only just learned we are not alone. We have made many mistakes in our history. We have hurt each other over small differences. But we learned. We grew. We became better. She paused and looked directly into the camera. 6 months ago, refugees came to our world. They were fleeing genocide. They asked for shelter. We said yes. Now the ones who hunt them demand we hand them over. We have refused. Tomorrow, they will likely attack us. We will probably lose. Her voice became stronger. But before we do, we want you to know the truth about the Galactic Concorde. We are sending you evidence of their crimes. The Great Purge is not justice. It is murder for profit. They harvest species like crops. They turn living beings into raw materials. The broadcast included all the data Kethra had provided. Shipping manifests, communications, financial records. Everything. If you are out there, Chung continued, if you are watching, if you have also been cast out or threatened or forced to choose between your conscience and your survival, know this. Earth stands with you. We may fall tomorrow, but we will fall fighting for what is right. And maybe, if enough of us stand together, one day the Concorde will fall instead. The message was sent to every frequency, every known communication channel. Then Earth waited. Day 30 arrived. The Concorde ships began moving. They glided through space like sharks, slow and confident. They knew they would win. Admiral Rodriguez stood in the command center, watching the screens. All ships, battle stations. Activate the belt defenses. God help us all. The Concorde fleet reached Mars. That's when the first surprise hit them. The organic sensors Suleth had designed lit up all at once, creating a web of light across the asteroid belt. It didn't hurt the ships, but it blinded their sensors for precious seconds. In those seconds, Tick and his team struck. Malicious code flooded into the Concorde network. It didn't take over their ships. Tick was right about that. But it did confuse them. Targeting systems flickered. Communication channels scrambled. One Concorde ship fired at another by mistake. The blast was deflected by shields, but it broke their perfect formation. Now, Admiral Rodriguez shouted. Human and collective ships burst from hiding spots among the asteroids. They were small and fast. They couldn't hurt the Concorde vessels much, but they didn't need to. They just needed to be annoying. Missiles launched. Most were destroyed before they hit, but a few got through. They carried the chemical mixtures Dr. Okafor had designed. They burst against Concorde shields and released clouds of organic matter that ate through energy fields like acid. The Concorde fleet slowed down. This wasn't supposed to be difficult. These were primitives and refugees. Why were they fighting so well? The answer was simple. Humans had fought each other for thousands of years. They knew every dirty trick. The collective had survived 3 years of running and hiding. They knew how to make every resource count. Together, they were dangerous, but the Concorde was still winning. For every Concorde ship that took damage, 3 human vessels exploded. The fleet pushed forward, closing the distance to Earth. Then something impossible happened. Wormholes opened in space. New ships poured through. They came from everywhere. Small vessels and large ones. Ships that looked like they were held together with hope and spare parts. They flew flags from species the Concorde had labeled extinct. This is the Remnant Fleet, a voice broadcast on open channels. Earth called. We answered. More wormholes opened. More ships appeared. Some brought weapons. Some brought supplies. All brought solidarity. Admiral Rodriguez stared at the screens in shock. Where did they all come from? Cathara was crying again. They're like us, refugees, survivors, species the Concorde thought they destroyed. Earth's message reached them. The new arrivals called themselves the Outcast Alliance. They had been hiding in the dark spaces between stars, waiting, hoping. When Earth broadcast the Concorde's crimes and refused to surrender the collective, they decided to stop hiding. The battle changed. The Concorde fleet was now surrounded. Ships attacked from all directions. The Concorde tried to retreat, but the outcasts cut off their escape routes. One Concorde warship broke formation and made a run for Earth. It had a single purpose. Its weapons charged, targeting Earth's core. A planet-killer blast that would crack the world in half. We can't stop it, Rodriguez said. We don't have anything that strong. Yes, we do, Cathara said quietly. She walked to a communication panel. All collective volunteers, this is Cathara. I need you now. Hundreds of small ships changed course. They weren't warships. They were shuttles, personal craft, anything that could fly. All of them headed straight for the Concorde vessel. What are they doing? A human officer asked. Buying time, Cathara said. Get a boarding party ready. Fast. The volunteer ships swarmed the Concorde vessel like insects. They didn't do much damage, but they didn't need to. They just needed to keep it busy for a few minutes. Those minutes let Cathara lead a team onto the ship. Humans and aliens working together breached the hull and fought their way to the bridge. It was chaos. Weapon fire. Hand-to-hand combat. Species that had never met before fought side by side. They reached the bridge just as the captain gave the order to fire. Cathara slammed her 4 fists into the control panel, ripping out critical components. The weapon powered down, but she didn't stop there. She accessed the ship's communication system and did something brilliant. She broadcast the Concorde bridge communications to every channel, every frequency, including back to the Concorde homeworld. The galaxy heard Concorde officers casually discussing how many tons of processed biological material each purged species would provide. They heard profit calculations based on neural pattern extraction. They heard the truth. Even the Concorde crew heard it. Some of them had believed the lies about inferior species and necessary measures. Now they heard their leaders discussing genocide as a business model. The ship's first officer drew his weapon and pointed it at his own captain. "I joined the Concord to bring order to chaos," the officer said quietly, "not to murder children for profit. You're under arrest." The planet killer ship surrendered. The rest of the fleet, seeing their flagship fall and surrounded by the Outcast Alliance, made a choice. They retreated. The surviving ships fled back to Concord space. The Battle of Earth was over. Earth had won, but the price was terrible. Thousands had died. Dozens of ships were destroyed. Cities had been evacuated. The world was scarred, but it was still there. Still standing. The morning after the battle, Earth woke up to a changed galaxy. Cathra's broadcast had gone everywhere. Every species in the Concord received it. Every world that had trusted their government to protect them now knew the truth. The Great Purge wasn't about security or progress. It was about profit. It was about turning living beings into resources. The Concord tried to deny it. Their leaders appeared on broadcasts and called the evidence fake. They said Earth and the Outcasts were terrorists spreading lies. They demanded order be restored, but no one believed them anymore. The broadcasts had come from their own ships. The voices belonged to their own officers. The financial records matched their own databases. On a Concord colony world called Tertian V, protests erupted. Citizens demanded answers. They wanted to know if their taxes had funded genocide. They wanted to know if their soldiers had committed murder in their name. On the industrial world of Forge Prime, workers went on strike. They refused to process materials until someone proved those materials hadn't come from purged species. Production stopped. The Concord economy began to shake. In the Concord Senate, representatives screamed at each other. Some demanded the truth. Others tried to maintain the lie. A few brave ones called for the government to dissolve itself and face justice. The galaxy was breaking apart. On Earth, President Chun sat in her office reading reports. The casualty numbers made her feel sick. 3,274 humans dead. 892 collective members. Countless ships destroyed. Cities damaged by falling debris. But there was other news too. Messages were flooding in from across the galaxy. Species Earth had never heard of were sending thanks. Some sent supplies to help with repairs. Others sent information about Concord corruption in their regions. A soft knock came at her door. "Come in," Chen said. Dr. Okafor entered with Xian. The crystal teenager looked different now. Part of his body had been damaged in the battle. He'd been one of the volunteers who planted sensors in the asteroid belt. A piece of debris had hit him during the fighting. "Mr. President," Xian said in his wind chime voice, "I wanted to thank you for everything." Chun smiled sadly. "You're the one who should be thanked. You fought for Earth. You didn't have to." "Yes, I did," Xian said. "Earth is my home now. Humans are my friends. Of course I fought." After they left, Chun stood and looked out her window. Geneva had been evacuated during the battle. People were coming back now. She could see humans and aliens working together to repair buildings. Children playing in parks. Different species mixed together like it was the most natural thing in the world. Maybe it was. Across the city, Cathra met with leaders of the Outcast Alliance. They gathered in a conference room that had been hastily repaired. Blast marks still scarred the walls. "We need to talk about what happens next," said Commander Vrix, a reptilian being who led the largest Outcast fleet. "The Concord is weakened, but not destroyed. They still have armies. They still have weapons. And they're angry," added another voice. This came from a being of pure energy named Luxon. "We humiliated them. They will want revenge." Cathra nodded her 4 heads. "Earth can't fight another battle like that. We barely survived this one. Earth won't fight alone, Rick said firmly. The Alliance will stay. We'll help defend this system. But we need more than defense, Luxon said. We need to change the galaxy. The evidence we broadcast started something. We need to keep the pressure on. Over the next weeks, a plan formed. The Outcast Alliance would stay in Earth's solar system, but they wouldn't hide. They would broadcast their own stories. They would share evidence of Concord crimes. They would become a voice for everyone the Concord had hurt. Earth would become the headquarters of this new resistance. The place where outcasts could gather safely. The place where truth could be spoken without fear. Meanwhile, inside Concord space, things got worse for the government. More colonies rebelled. More workers struck. Military units started deserting. They couldn't arrest everyone. A Concord admiral named Vex made a shocking decision. She took her entire fleet and defected. 50 ships jumped to Earth space and asked for asylum. I followed orders, Vex said when she met with President Chun. I helped the Concord expand. I thought I was bringing civilization to chaos. Then I heard those broadcasts. I heard what we really were. I can't serve that government anymore. What about your crew? Chun asked. They voted, unanimously. We would rather be outcasts than murderers. Earth welcomed them. The Outcast Alliance grew stronger every day, but the biggest change happened on a Concord world called Primus. It was the Concord capital, the center of their government, the heart of their power. A young Concord senator named Jaith stood before the Grand Assembly. She was the same species as the ambassador who had threatened Earth. Silver skin, pupil-less eyes, elegant and cold. But her voice was not cold. It shook with rage. I have reviewed the evidence, Jaith said. I have checked every source. It's all true. Our government has been committing genocide for profit. And we, the Assembly, are complicit. We approved budgets. We passed laws. We knew something was wrong, but we didn't ask questions. Other senators tried to shout her down. She ignored them. My own family benefited from this, she continued. We owned stock in processing corporations. We made money from murder. I am ashamed. We should all be ashamed. She held up a datapad. I am calling for a vote of no confidence in the Concord leadership. I am calling for immediate cessation of all purge operations. I am calling for war crimes tribunals. And I am calling for this assembly to dissolve itself. We have no right to govern. We have no moral authority. We should face justice for what we've done. The chamber erupted. Some senators agreed. Others screamed treason. The session descended into chaos. Security had to clear the building, but Jaith's speech was broadcast across Concord space. Millions heard it. Billions. It was a Concord senator from a Concord family admitting the truth. The lies couldn't hold anymore. Within a month, the Concord government collapsed. Not all at once. Not cleanly. But it collapsed. Some senators fled. Some were arrested by their own people. Some, like Jaith, stayed and tried to build something better from the ruins. A provisional government formed. Their first act was to officially end the Great Purge. Their second was to open communication with Earth and the Outcast Alliance. Their third was to begin identifying all the species they had eliminated and all the ones they had tried to eliminate. The list was horrifying. Hundreds of species. Millions of individuals. Cathra reviewed the list with Dr. Okafor. When she found her species, she broke down. The Sivan had numbered 10 billion before the purge. Now, including the collective, fewer than 2 million survived. I'm so sorry, Okafor said quietly. We can't bring them back, Cathra whispered. My sister, my parents, my world, all gone, turned into components and materials. Okafor didn't try to comfort her with empty words. He just sat with her while she cried. But grief wasn't the only emotion spreading through the galaxy. There was also hope. Species that thought they were the last of their kind discovered others had survived. The outcasts started building a database of survivors. They created networks to connect scattered refugees. They began planning how to rebuild, and they all looked to Earth as the center of this new movement. President Chen was invited to speak at the first meeting of what people were calling the Galactic Assembly. It wasn't a government yet, just representatives from hundreds of worlds trying to figure out what came next. She stood before them and said, "We are not your leaders. Earth doesn't want to rule anyone. We barely figured out how to rule ourselves. But we can offer you something else. We can offer you shelter while you heal. We can offer you a place to speak freely. We can offer you what we offered the collective. A home." The representatives voted to make Earth a neutral zone. A place where any species could seek asylum. A place where the rules would be simple. No genocide. No slavery. No harvesting of sentient beings. Treat others as you want to be treated. It wasn't complicated. But it was revolutionary. Back in Toronto, Xian returned to school. The building had been damaged during the battle, but it was repaired now. He walked through halls filled with more alien students than before. Survivors from a dozen species had enrolled. Sophie found him at his locker. "Hey, did you hear? We're getting Concord transfer students next semester." "Really?" Xian's crystal body shifted colors, showing surprise. "But they were our enemies." "Yeah, but their government fell apart. Some of them want to learn a different way. The principal said we should welcome them. Will you?" Xian asked. Sophie thought about it. "I don't know. They tried to kill us, but they were lied to, right? Maybe they deserve a second chance. Isn't that what Earth is about? Second chances?" Xian made a sound like chimes in the wind. It was Torsion laughter. "Yes, I think that is what Earth is about." On a space station above Earth, Admiral Rodriguez and Commander Vrix watched new ships arrive. More refugees. More survivors. More beings looking for safety. "We're going to run out of room eventually," Rodriguez said. "Then we build more stations," Vrix replied. "More settlements. More cities. Earth showed us that differences make us stronger. Now we prove it." Rodriguez smiled. 6 months. 10 years had passed since the Battle of Earth. Cathara stood on the observation deck of Unity Station, the massive space platform that orbited Earth. Through the windows, she could see the planet below. It looked different than it had a decade ago. More lights. More cities. More life. Dozens of ships moved around the station. Some were human designs. Others were alien. Most were a mix of both. Humans had learned alien engineering. Aliens had learned human creativity. Together, they built things neither could have made alone. A voice spoke behind her. "Ambassador Cathara, they're ready for you." Cathara turned. After everything that had happened, Earth had asked her to represent them in the new Galactic Assembly. She had said yes. It felt right. Earth had given her people a home. Now she could give Earth a voice in the galaxy. She walked into the assembly chamber. It was enormous. Representatives from 300 different species sat in circular tiers. Some breathed oxygen. Some breathed methane. Some didn't breathe at all. Special environmental zones kept everyone comfortable. This was the third Galactic Assembly. The first had been chaos. Everyone shouting. Everyone demanding justice or compensation or revenge. The second had been better. They had started making laws. Basic rules that everyone agreed on. This one would be historic. Today, they were voting on the final version of the Galactic Charter, the document that would define how species interacted with each other. Cathera took her seat next to the human representative, Ambassador Marcus Webb. He had been a young soldier during the Battle of Earth. Now he was one of Earth's chief diplomats. Nervous? Marcus asked. Terrified, Cathera admitted. All four of her hands were shaking slightly. Me too, Marcus said with a smile. But we've got this. The assembly leader, a wise old being named Elder Sooth, called for order. Her species lived for centuries. She had seen empires rise and fall. She had volunteered to guide this new attempt at galactic unity. We gathered today, Elder Sooth said, her voice carrying through translators to every species present, to vote on the Galactic Charter. This document represents 2 years of debate and compromise. It is not perfect, but it is ours. Let us review the key points one final time. The charter appeared on screens throughout the chamber. Cathera had helped write parts of it. She knew every word. The first principle was simple. All sentient beings had the right to exist. No species could be eliminated, harvested, or enslaved. No exceptions. The second principle established Earth as a permanent neutral zone. Any being could seek asylum there. No military action could be taken in Earth's solar system. The third principle created the assembly itself. 1 representative per species. 1 vote per species. No species could rule another. Decisions required a majority. There were more principles. Rules about trade. Rules about conflict resolution. Rules about first contact with new species. But those first 3 were the foundation. We will now vote, Elder Sooth said. A simple yes or no. Should the Galactic Charter become binding law? The vote took an hour. 300 species had to voice their choice. Some gave long speeches first. Others simply said yes or no. When it was Earth's turn, Marcus stood. Humanity votes yes. We believe in this charter. We believe in what we can build together. We vote yes with hope for the future and remembrance of the past. When it was the Civians' turn, Cathera stood. My people were nearly destroyed by those who believed some lives mattered more than others. We vote yes to ensure that never happens again. Finally, every species had voted. Elder Sooth reviewed the results. The motion passes. 307 votes in favor. 15 abstentions. 0 votes against. The Galactic Charter is now binding law. The chamber erupted in celebration. Species that had been enemies for centuries applauded together. It wasn't perfect unity. There would still be conflicts and disagreements. But for the first time in galactic history, there was a framework for resolving them peacefully. After the session, Cathera returned to Earth. She landed at the Nairobi spaceport, the same place she had first stepped onto the planet 10 years ago. The city had grown enormously. Towers reached into the sky, built with combined human and alien technology. She took a transport to a familiar neighborhood. Miguel's water treatment plant had expanded. It now served 3 million people and 24 species. The old engineer had retired, but Cathera still visited him. She found him in a garden behind his house. He was old now, his hair completely white, but he still moved with energy as he worked on a new irrigation system. Cathera. Miguel called out when he saw her. Did the vote pass? Yes, she said, settling onto a bench designed for her 4-armed body. The charter is law now. I knew it would work, Miguel said, sitting beside her. You humans and aliens, you make a good team. We learned from you, Cathera said. Humans taught us that chaos and order can work together. That different ways of thinking create better solutions. Miguel laughed. And you aliens taught us patience and planning. We balance each other out. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sun set over Nairobi. In the distance, Cathera could see ships rising into orbit. Earth had become the busiest spaceport in the galaxy. Across the world in Toronto, Zian stood in front of a graduation ceremony. He was 28 years old now. By Torsian standards, still very young. He had stayed on Earth after high school. He had gone to university. He had become a teacher. Now he taught mathematics at his old high school. The building had been expanded 3 times to accommodate all the students. Humans, aliens, and children of mixed heritage who represented the new generation. "Congratulations, graduates," Zian said to the assembled students. His crystal body caught the light, creating rainbow patterns across the auditorium. "You are the first generation to grow up in a truly galactic society. You have friends from 100 worlds. You speak a dozen languages. You understand perspectives your parents never imagined." He paused, his body shifting colors to show emotion. "When I first came to Earth, I was scared. I was alone. I thought my people were dying out. But humanity taught me something important. Home is not a place. It's the people who accept you for who you are." In the audience, Sophie sat with her own daughter. The child was half human, half Torsian, a living bridge between 2 species. There were thousands like her now, children who belonged to 2 worlds or 3 or more. "Earth gave me shelter when I had nowhere else to go," Zian continued. "Now I have watched Earth give shelter to millions. I have watched this planet become a beacon for the lost and the outcast. And I have learned that humanity's greatest strength is not their technology or their warriors. It is their capacity for compassion." The graduates cheered. They threw their caps into the air in the traditional human way. But they also performed celebrations from 24 other cultures. It was beautiful chaos. That night, President Chun gave a speech. She was older now, in the final year of her term. Another leader would take over soon. But she wanted to speak one more time to Earth and to the galaxy. 10 years ago, she said, "We made a choice. We chose compassion over fear. We chose to stand with the outcast instead of the powerful. Many people thought we were foolish. They said we would be destroyed." She smiled. "They were wrong. Yes, we fought. Yes, we lost people we loved. But we survived. More than that, we thrived. Because we learned that our differences make us stronger. That diversity is not a weakness to be eliminated, but a strength to be celebrated." The speech was broadcast to 300 worlds. Billions watched. "Earth is not the center of the galaxy," Chun continued. "We are not the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced. But we are proud to be the place where anyone can find shelter, where any being can start over, where differences are welcomed instead of feared." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "To everyone watching, wherever you are, whatever you are, remember this. You are not alone. If you are cast out, if you are hunted, if you need sanctuary, Earth is here. We will always be here." In a small apartment in Mumbai, a Sivan family watched the speech. They had been part of the original collective. They had survived because Earth said yes. In a research station on Mars, human and alien scientists worked together to cure a disease that affected both species. They were succeeding. In orbit around Jupiter, the Outcast Alliance maintained a defensive fleet. They no longer hid in the dark. They protected the light. And in the ruins of the old Concord capital, Jaith worked with others to build something better. The provisional government had become the Reformed Alliance. They had apologized. They had paid reparations. They had opened their borders to refugees. It would take generations to heal the damage the Concord had caused. Maybe longer. But the work had begun. On Earth, in front of the restored Statue of Liberty, a ceremony took place. Workers unveiled a new plaque at the statue's base. It was written in 100 languages, including all 23 from the original collective. The plaque read, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. We meant it. Humanity, 2187. Cathara attended the ceremony with Miguel. She read the plaque and felt tears forming again. Even after 10 years on Earth, she still cried easily. It's beautiful, she said. It's the truth, Miguel replied.